Within a vast alien marketplace, in the so-called slave arena on the planet Oberdos, we meet the last human being in existence. He was the captain of the International Space Station, and was on board when Earth was destroyed by an alien race known as the Succubi during a campaign of conquest and destruction known as the Great Terror. The ISS was blasted out of the Earth's orbit by the shockwaves of Earth's destruction, and his fellow astronauts were all killed. He and what was left of the space station drifted through the void until it was picked up by alien scavengers. While in the slave arena, this last human, among many other captured alien lifeforms, is subjected to close inspection by those who are in the market for servants, labourers, gladiators, or lovers. The last man, however, wouldn't become any of these things, because shortly after being spotted by a potential alien buyer and talking shit directly to his face, this happened. And in that moment, this universe officially became a post-human one. Humanity would be avenged though, as would countless other species wiped out during the Great Terror by a mysterious, brutal and unforgiving entity known only as Shakara. I will avoid spoilers where possible, but I should warn you now that this video will contain some spoilers with regards to the main character's physiology and biology, so if you'd rather read the story for yourself first, now would be the time to stop watching this video. I will now tell you all about the universe that Shakara inhabits. The character was first seen within the pages of the weekly publication 2000 AD, a long-running magazine whose headquarters are based in my homeland, England. Many of you will know 2000 AD is the home of everyone's favourite judge, jury and executioner, Judge Dredd. Shakara was co-created by writer Robbie Morrison and artist Henry Flint. The story began all the way back in 2001 and concluded in 2011. It has now been collected into 2 trade paperbacks, Shakara the Avenger and Shakara the Destroyer. The main character, to begin with, is a mystery. Its name comes from the one and only word that it says before it makes a kill. It's an alien species that appears to be the last of its species, much like the unfortunate human mentioned earlier. It's clad in a metal suit, and its only discernible facial features are its 2 bright, glowing red eyes. It has spikes sticking out of its head, arms and torso. On its right hand it has a laser weapon, and on its right a sort of jagged pincer. It has a long chain or chains wrapped around its neck for protection. The whole outfit looks as though it was pieced together using found debris. This being is undoubtedly a killing machine, driven purely by rage and vengeance for its fallen people, and for other species throughout the galaxy that have been destroyed. Just after the last human is killed, he is immediately on the scene, slaughtering the perpetrator and others within the vicinity who would do harm to the captive lifeforms within the slave arena. The Shakara is said to be the last surviving member of its species, and with some twists and turns throughout the story, which I won't spoil here, we get to find out what this strange, vengeful being's true purpose is, and the true reason its people were destroyed. But the Shakara isn't the only strange being to inhabit this world. The Hierarchy, an alliance of different alien species, all hostile toward our protagonist and all complicit in the Great Terror, are the ones of whom vengeance is sought. They come in a variety of different striking forms. I'll go through a selection of the most notable ones here, but to get the full experience I highly recommend getting the 2 graphic novels for yourself. The first are the Krulls. These are the first alien species that we see Shakara dispense justice upon, and by that I mean exterminate. The Krulls have a very interesting and unique design, in that when their leaders are gathered together within their floating capitol building or whatever it is, they each ensconce themselves within long gaps that run along the walls of the building. They're creepy. They seem to have a sort of insectish appearance and lifestyle. They're in the process of attempting to extort an insane amount of money from a less advanced race, known as the Silarians, who need to escape from their sun which is going supernova. The Krulls control the wormhole technology in this quadrant and have decided to renegotiate their payment with the Silarians. This is when the Shakara breaks through the Krulls' defences with his ship and starts to slaughter them, and rightfully so. They engage him using cyber tendrils, but they provide little resistance against him. He then sabotages the ship's control system, aims their ship towards a nearby black hole, and that's the last we see of the Krulls. The Xorn Empire belongs to the hierarchy also, and is led by a bloodthirsty, monstrous warlord named Skulker, who delights in annihilating entire civilizations. By the point that we meet him in the story, however, he's beginning to grow weary of what he does. He's bored, and has been ever since the apparent genocide of the most feared race in the galaxy, the Shakarans. Nothing seems to excite him anymore. That is until the Shakara makes an appearance when the warlord is in the process of wiping out a lesser advanced race called the Hydroxians, and this reignites Warlord Skulker's passion for conflict. This would of course be the last conflict that Skulker would engage in, as, well, he's a bad guy and Shakara is the protagonist, so naturally he has to die, along with the rest of the genocidal Xorn Empire. The Psico Alliance is made up of telepathic beings that possess a skinny, humanoid body and a giant floating eyeball for a head. These beings, while not as deadly as the Succubi, are quite possibly the most sadistic of all hierarchy member species. They're easily the most intelligent and the most wicked, taking great delight in the destruction of less advanced worlds and species. An individual by the name of Oberon Sneer, master investigator of the Psychos, is the one to give Shakara the most grief over the course of the story. He does meet his end, in the end, but to avoid serious spoilers, I won't reveal anything about that here. This species can all use their telepathic abilities to merge into a, quote, brainstorming fleet of mind morphs. They are indeed extremely deadly. Up next are the Teknosaurs, who I have to say are my personal favourite. They're basically just various kinds of dinosaurs and pterosaurs, but intelligent and sapient, capable of speech. They all have some kind of mechanical apparatus on their heads and other parts of their bodies, which I believe is what grants them their intelligence, though this isn't stated outright in the story. They are evil, of course, being a member race of the hierarchy, but they don't seem quite as intelligent as the other species. They seem to serve as comic relief more than anything, but not through any sort of stupidity, but more from the sheer absurdity of having talking dinosaurs engage in normal conversations. And lastly, we have the Succubi, and depending on the point of view you choose to take, these could be the most evil of all the hierarchy beings, or the least. These are the beings responsible for the destruction of Earth at the beginning of the story. The Succubi, as the graphic novel states within its pages, are, quote, without doubt one of the deadliest races you will encounter within these pages. Insectoid beings of sentient plasma, the Succubi prey upon the less civilized galaxies, draining energy from their target worlds and leaving them as little more than lifeless husks. Succubi ships bombard their targets with incredible firepower, triggering a world-shattering chain reaction. The energies released by the planetary death throes are then absorbed by the Apocalypse Core, the power source of the ships. The Succubi, bio-linked directly to the mainframe of their ships, feed upon the trapped energy like vampires upon a gushing corpse. End quote. And that's from the Encyclopedia Intergalactica, edition 2000. Yes, they destroy worlds for sustenance. Horrible from our perspective, completely normal from theirs. At least they seem to do it for a somewhat understandable reason though. The others, like the previously mentioned Psychos, just seem to commit genocide because it's fun. These were of course just a handful of species from this incredible work of comic book science fiction. I've left out a lot of stuff, including things related to the Red Death, the characters of Lara and Eva Procopio, the memoirs of Valentine Diath, a pretty badass assassin character, and who the main villain, the big bad of the story really is. To be perfectly honest, it's not often that I read comics anymore. I used to be very much a DC guy, but their output over the last 5 years or so has been mostly garbage. Shakara though was a joy to read. I found it while trying to find something new and interesting to talk about on the channel, and after looking at a few titles that came up when I googled graphic novels with aliens, I decided to buy the digital versions of the 2 installments and read through the whole story. I loved everything about it. The artist Henry Flint was apparently given free rein to design absolutely everything in this book however he wanted it, and you can tell that he had a hell of a fun time doing so. Robbie Morrison has written something pretty special here as well. I wasn't aware of him or his work before, but he seems to have worked on quite a few different titles for 2000 AD, and has even worked in the US writing a Spider-Man title for Marvel. Not something I'm really into, but still an interesting piece of trivia. I'll definitely be looking into reading more of his stuff now that I've found him though. And that about wraps this one up. What do you guys think of what you've seen so far of the Shakara story? Are you intrigued by it and want to add it to your collection? Leave a comment with your thoughts, and also don't forget to like the video, share it around, and subscribe to the channel if you're interested in speculative evolution and biology, weird obscure science fiction, and full audiobooks of these types of stories. This has been Beware the Q, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.